Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to this round of IFFI Table Talks. For this interaction, it's my pleasure to welcome the cast and crew of two international movies that were screened at IFFI 53. Representing the film Fortune from Tajikistan, we have director Muhyiddin Muzaffar, who's also the producer and has written the film's screenplay. He is accompanied by Mr. Konstantin, his interpreter, who's from Russia but been in India for around 7 years. Our next film is a co-production of Costa Rica and Qatar, the Spanish language film Domingo and the Mist, represented by producer and director Mr. Ariel Escalante Mesa. What I'll do is I'll read a brief synopsis of each film, followed by the trailer, and then we'll open the floor for questions. First up, the Tajik movie Fortune takes us back to the early 1990s when Tajikistan was facing turbulent times at the eve of its independence due to inflation, food insufficiency, political turmoil. And it's a very humane narration of how sudden windfall gains test a very long-term friendship of Kahor and Manon. I was fortunate enough to watch Fortune yesterday, and for those of you who haven't, we have the trailer of Fortune. Can we have the trailer of Fortune, please?
اگر اون وقت گناه ما را به گردن نمی گرفتی شاید زندگیت تماما دیگر خیلی شد.
در زندگی این چیز مهم نیست. من صاحب دوستی حقیقی شدم.
اگر بریدی حق حلال خودت
ما باید بس کنیم.
دادا بس کردن ممکن نیست میفهمی
من حاضرم با فرزندت کمک کنم اما دوستی نمی کنم. دوره بیچارگی ناومد. بریم کار. تقدیرت آسان کن. بیگو شریکت کیست؟ چرا از من کار میکنی؟ من باید میرنجیدم.
تو میخوایی دایم به من کمک کنی سرنده خلطور شد؟
قدر تنهایم پسرم هیچگاه خود را قدر بی صاحبی سرقدر این ماشین فقط بدبختی میآورد. حالا امکان داری نقص فکر کن. براستی این بلیط به تو لازم است؟
Thank you. Moving to our next film, Spanish language film Domingo and the Mist portrays a widower Domingo who refuses to give up his piece of land despite intimidation from various quarters and his neighbors leaving successively one after the other. But there is a special and very mystical secret behind that piece of land, and that is what keeps people glued to the narrative of the film. Can we have the trailer of Domingo and the Mist, please?
Dicen que usted es un hombre discreto, amigo. Usted sabe lo importante que es que la carretera pase por aquí.
A mí no me interesa. Silvia, ¿quiere que su mamá me volvió a visitar?
Mi mamá está muerta. ¿Por qué no la deja descansar de una buena vez?
Usted piensa que yo soy un mentiroso. Nunca me ha creído.
No vamos ni recortar, así andan esos estómagos. Puede que paras de duro, ¿ah?
macho, ni papel nada se pega.
¡Salga! ¡Salga, cobarde!
¿Qué va a pensar tu hija, huevón? Vámonos. Vamos, tranquilo.
¡Hueputa!
Sabes que esa gente anda preguntando a ver quién fue el que pegó ese bombazo. Es que andan averiguando para matarlo.
Si yo me voy del rancho, usted no me va a encontrar. Y si yo me muero, usted no me va a buscar.
Lights. Can anyone help us with lights, please? Moving on, let's hear from the directors themselves about their experience of making the film. We'll begin with Mr. Muhiddin Muzaffar from Tajikistan. His film was selected for screening at this year's Busan International Film Festival and is also competing for the ICFT UNESCO Gandhi Medal at IFFI 53. Mr. Muzaffar, please talk us through your experience of making Fortune.
Спасибо большое. Я очень рад, что для меня честь представить наш фильм в этом фестивале. Спасибо организаторам.
So first of all, I would like to say that for me it's a great honor to present our film at this festival, and thanks for invitation here.
Эта история, которую мы снимали, я очень долго мечтал, чтобы его снимать, потому что это история моего деда, это история про моего детства, это история про того места, где я жил. И я очень долго мечтал, чтобы его снимал.
So that was my long-time dream to be able to make this movie, because this is story of my childhood, this is story of my grandfather. So I've been trying to make this film for a really long time, and I'm really happy that it finally happened.
Мне кажется, что в 90-х годах, в то время, когда очень жизнь трудно была у нас, но были очень высокие духовности в дедах, в наших людях. Я думаю, что сегодняшний день, который у нас все есть, не то богатство, которое тогда было. Поэтому мне очень понравился вот этот контраст, как в трудные годы люди всегда хотели оставаться людьми перед тем трудностями, которые у них были.
So for me it was interesting because in comparison to what we have right now, 90s was a very tough times, and even in the face of those hardships that our grandfathers were facing, they were remaining very humane, they were remaining very spiritual, and right now I would say when we have everything, those kind of values are slowly being lost. So that's why for me it was important to compare, those times.
Это как раз такие годы, которые люди не смогли как жить, как хотели, как их внутренний мир показывает. Они из-за трудностей совсем наоборот жили. Они хотели правильно жить, но обстоятельства их заставили, чтобы они воровали. Обстоятельства заставили их, чтобы они не так жили, как хотели. И поэтому наши деды, мне кажется, очень хотели, чтобы их будущее, их дети, их внуки вот это трудности никогда больше не видели. И они столько смогли, вот это дали нам.
So I would say that people back then, they were not able to live in harmony with their inner selves because of the circumstances and the hardships that were around them. They had to do such activities like robbery and all that were not in in what they are really inside, but they had to do this because of the circumstances. And I think for them, for our grandfathers, it was very important to make sure that their children, us, we will not be facing the same issue.
Ну, для того, чтобы снимать данную картину, нам пришлось работать 2 года. И команда, которая этот фильм снимал, они очень молодые. Мне 35, а моим операторам 30, остальным. То есть это фильм снят в молодом киностудии, и это первый наш серьезный шаг в мир кино.
So, and we've been working for 2 years to make this film, and our team was quite young. For example, I'm 35 and our DOP was 30. So, and it was the first film for our production company, and you might say that it was our first step into the world of big cinema.
Поэтому нам было бы интересно ваши мысли, если вы смотрели, и ваши мысли для нас очень важно, потому что нам важно очень ваши отзывы, участвовать в таких фестивалях. И через эти отзывы ваши мы хотим развиваться, и мы хотим в нашем молодом государстве найти поддержку, что мы снимаем и хотим снимать хороших фильмов, и хотим показать нашу культуру во всем мире. Спасибо.
And that's why for us it's very valuable also to hear your opinion if you had a chance to see the film, because we want to develop further. We would like to hear it from you specifically to, you know, understand how we can make it better, because we are a young company and our state is also young, and you know, to promote our culture, to promote our traditions, and to develop further, you know, your opinion would be extremely valuable, and that's why such festivals are important for this exchange, to help us, you know, to grow further.
Спасибо.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muzaffar. It's indeed a very beautiful film. I've seen it, and I'll urge all of you to go and watch it. Moving on to you, Mr. Ariel Escalante Mesa. Your film Domingo and the Mist was selected for screening at this year's Cannes Film Festival and Toronto International Film Festival, and it's also lined up at the Panama and Havana Film Festivals, and that's how the year ends for him. It's Mr. Mesa also tells me that it is Costa Rica's official entry to the Oscars next year for the 95th Academy Awards. And his first film, The Sound of Things, was also Costa Rica's official entry to the Oscars. We have one director with 2 films back to back being sent to the Oscars. Please talk us through your journey of making Domingo and the Mist.
Well, first of all, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much to IFFI Goa for inviting me. It's really important to me to come, you know, all the way here to show a film. I don't know if you have, you know, had the chance to watch Costa Rican films before. I think we have a very burgeoning but still, you know, small history at filmmaking, and I feel very proud and very happy to be a part of it. Domingo and the Mist like grew or was born out of a necessity to discuss stuff about my country. I don't know if you are acquainted with Costa Rica. You know, it's a very small country of 5 million inhabitants, which has a tradition of democracy and you know, and it's a very stable country. Nonetheless, I do feel that Costa Rica is not, you know, in a proper dialogue with itself and with the world, and I think it was important for me to make a film which was like very politically incendiary, sort of speaking. You know, I really wanted to discuss the structural violence in Costa Rica. I wanted to discuss land conflicts. I wanted to discuss the ghost of progress, you know, and what it does to people, no, to people in the countrysides. And I feel that for me it's very important to, you know, openly discuss our issues in order to transform our reality, right? So it was really important to me to discuss, you know, this thing about violence, but I wanted to also make a film that was spiritual in a way, right? So the film is is it's a film about ghosts. It's a film about Latin Americans' relationship with our dead, which is like a very open and very loving relationship we have with our departed, sort of speaking, which is a big tradition like in Mexico with Dia de Muertos and all over our continent, right? So I wanted to mix these two things. I wanted to make a film that wasn't that was very punky in a way, I wasn't interested in looking for harmony in the narrative elements. I was looking for conflict. I was looking to make stuff clash that wasn't like all natural, and I feel that that's why we made this film like with 7-person crew. We made this film. We moved to a community in the mountains which is called Cascajal de Coronado. The film is starred by non-professional actors, and if you see the trailer, it has a lot of BFX, because as I told you, it's a film about ghosts, and all the BFX we decided to do them practical on set, instead of using green screens or hard CGI BFX, because we wanted to be very true to this punk spirit, right? To this like politically incendiary film spirit. And at the end of the day, I feel that we got a particular artisanal film that I'm really happy to have the opportunity to share with you here in Goa.
Thank you, Mr. Ariel. The floor is now open to questions. If any one of you has any questions for the directors.
По-моему, здесь люди, которые не видели фильм. Если они бы видели, да, у них глаза бы совсем другие были, да.
Yeah, very good evening to all guests on the media friends. I just dropped in to watch a film. I never knew that it was a Tajikistan film. I thought first 10 minutes it was an Iranian film. I have seen the costumes and the language. Then most probably it must be a Uzbek or Tajikis film. The language which you spoke here, the language which we heard the dialogues, a lot of difference. Is the language you are speaking now to us is the language the present they speak, or the language which they was in the film 20% resembles to Hindi and Sanskrit. If you know that we can understand. But well-made film, keeping into 1990s, and good story depicting of the true friendship of though at that age group. I saw at least 70% of the movie. I liked it. And you are the grandkid in that film, the small boy. The story belongs to you.
Yes.
I like that film. But in IFFI, I'm coming last 14 years. I never see a film from either Ivory Coast or from Costa Rica or from Tajikistan. Very less film participation. Maybe in co-production we hear the name of Costa Rica or Tajikistan.
Спасибо, что посмотрели наш фильм. Мне это очень приятно.
Thank you for watching our film. I'm really glad to hear it.
То язык, который я сейчас говорю, это русский, потому что у меня переводчик русский. А вы видели фильм на таджикском языке, поэтому...
So you rightly mentioned that the languages are different, because right now we speak in Russian because my interpreter speaks in Russian. But in the film it is a Tajiki language.
Да. Спасибо большое. Если это будет какие-то отзывы, если вы будете писать, было бы нам интересно.
So yeah, we will be really grateful if you will be, sharing your opinions or writing reviews about this film. That will be really helpful.
Спасибо.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of film festivals, right? We're here at a press conference of two films from two very different parts of the world, and I feel that film festivals are for discussion and are also for uniting cultures, and that's why we need them. So I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really happy that you say that.
что вы это рассказали.
My question is to Muhiddin. How much do you believe in fortune? Because I have not seen the movie, but I have my friends are talking about the movie from yesterday, and they are keeping on talking about the movie. Particular incident in that when the person exchanged the sweet corn with the lottery ticket. So again references coming on fortune itself. So how much do you believe in fortune after seeing all this happening to your grandfather?
Да. Мое мнение как раз в этом фильме через главного героя Кахора сказано, что Кахор своему внуку говорит, что не верь удачам, всегда тебе придется на все отвечать. В этой жизни ничего просто так не дается, поэтому ты должен сам добивать все через труд, через искренний, честный труд.
So my opinion is voiced by Kahor character, main character, and he's saying to his grandson that there is nothing in this world that is happening on its own. You need to work hard to achieve anything, and nothing that you receive is not happening just like that. There is always a labor and responsibility behind it.
Как раз посыл данного фильма в том, что 99% удачи – это труд, может быть 1% повезет или не повезет.
So I personally believe in this movie it's also represented that 99% of success is hard work and then maybe 1% of luck and fortune.
Тебе, если все дается просто так, все просто ты выиграешь где-то там, ты станешь быстрым миллионером, не знаю, но это не означает, что тебе повезло, у тебя есть удача. Может быть, он как раз наоборот, это не удача, это несчастье.
So, and again, as we see in the movie, you might think that if you suddenly won a lottery, if you suddenly became a millionaire, that you're a fortunate person, but it might be the opposite. It might be bring you only unhappiness and unfortune.
Да, люди убеждены в том, что как будто вообще люди верят в том, что быстро где-то там выиграть, да, просто так. А это реально так не годится, реально так нету, поэтому это наша позиция, это наше слово в этом фильме.
So people want to believe that there are ways to quickly achieve something, quickly get lucky and rich, but my position and the position of this film that it's not that simple, it doesn't work this way.
Thank you.
My question is for Muhiddin sir. Sir, you're also an actor. What do you enjoy doing more, being an actor or directing movies?
Что вам больше нравится, быть актером или режиссером, если вы занимались и тем, и тем?
Обоих. Я без актерства тоже не могу жить. Но я ушел из театра, потому я сам почти 10 лет работал в театре. В том числе я был здесь, в Индии, в театральном фестивале Махатсавранг. Я играл здесь король Лира. И я ушел из театра, потому что видел, что мои работы, которые я в театре сделали, там очень мало людей смотрят. Наш труд, это как бы очень малым количеством людьми закончится. Поэтому я перешел в кино, потому что я хочу, чтобы нашу работу побольше людей посмотрели.
So I like both, and I can't imagine my life without being an actor too. And actually, I've been working in theater for 10 years, and as a matter of fact, I visited India before for a theatrical festival in Delhi, where I was part of King Lear play. But I had to leave it because I realized at some point that the number of people who are watching our plays, with whom we're interacting, is very less. So I moved to cinema to have a bigger outreach, to speak with the wider audience. That's the main reason.
Да, и я очень полюбил Индию тогда, когда на театральном фестивале. Смотрю, здесь развито и кино, и театр. Поэтому спасибо организаторам, которые очень много стараются в сфере культуры в Индии.
And I loved India since my first visit, and now I'm realizing that in India both theater culture and cinema culture are very well developed and booming, and that's why I want to thank organizers again for making this possible and make such events happening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is it for the Tajikistan director? This film is produced by government or private producers? And tell a few lines about the film industry in Tajikistan. Does you have festivals like this? Do you, people make short documentary animation films? What is the role of the government to organize international festivals in Tajikistan? So very rarely we hear about films from Tajikistan. Same thing happened to Costa Rica also. Is your film produced by you or government funded or crowd funded? And do you have any festivals there in Costa Rica? And very few films we heard from Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Then how you feel coming to IFFI, seeing such vibrant festival is one of the biggest festival of India, organized by the government of India and government of Goa combination. And you must, and you have seen the other country films now. What to analyze where you stand in filmmaking? Filmmaking is a slow process of learning the art. So how you analyze yourselves?
You wanna start? Okay. My film is produced by my production company, which is called Incendio Cine, but is funded by by the government fund, which is we have a really, I mean, like as I said before, it's a burgeoning film scene, and I think that people are hearing more and more about Costa Rican cinema, but still a small industry. So like our government funds are not like our way of funding. It's not that big. So we're still making like low budget films. My film in particular is a co-production between Costa Rica and Qatar, which is like the first Costa Rica Qatari film, in history, and this is because of the Doha Film Institute like supporting our film, which is wonderful, which has been a wonderful support and wonderful exchange of ideas as well, and a platform to develop our film. And so yeah, most Costa Rican films are funded by the government. Like the participation of private funding is very scarce in Costa Rica because because we're fighting for a type of cinema. We're like empowering our narratives to go beyond the standards of the free market, and I feel like private funding in Costa Rica is very after profit. So that's why I don't think there's a big relationship between the arts and the private sector, right? Can I ask you, what was the second part of your question? We have the Costa Rican International Film Festival, which is just like the same as our industry. It's a bit smaller than a lot smaller than this festival, but it's a festival which is very dear to me because it has like supported my career since the beginning, and it has this particular sensibility. It's looking for more like independent and strange narratives, which is a breath of fresh air for Costa Rican cinemas. You get to watch films and kind of narratives that you wouldn't see otherwise. I feel like this is my third day at IFFI Goa, and I really admire the work that has been done here. I think there's a lot of films, like an humongous quantity of films dialoguing, here, and I feel that's wonderful. I think the cultural exchange and the intellectual exchange that is happening here it's tremendous. I'm really I haven't seen any films in the festival just yet because. What? Yeah, like yesterday was my first day. I was presenting Domingo en the Mist, and I was I saw. I have Electric Dreams by Valentina Maurel, which is a Costa Rican film. I'm sorry, but I came all the way here to watch it. I haven't had the opportunity to watch it, and it was the cinematographer of that film is Nicolas Wong Diaz, who is the cinematographer for and producer for Domingo and the Mist. So I had like the opportunity to present the film with him, and I'm really looking forward to watch films starting now. Yeah. Well, I don't have that much of a relationship with Indian cinema, I have to admit. Yeah, it's very difficult to we don't get them in Latin America. We don't get them at cinemas, we don't get them at art house circuits, we don't get them at at the cinematheques. So I think it's the same relationship that you guys have with Costa Rican cinema. Which is a drag, right?
I guess one part of the question is for Ms. Muzaffar also.
Я буду коротким. 50% нашего бюджета поддерживал государство, а 50% я как продюсер искал спонсоров, даже иногда в долг взял. И самое главное, я закончил этот проект.
I will be very brief. So 50% of our film was funded by the government, and 50% as a producer I was sourcing and even was taking loans, and I'm very happy that finally this project is done now.
Наши трудности точь-в-точь как в Коста-Рике. Есть у нас международный кинофестиваль, но после пандемии он как-то сейчас не идет. С 2004 году по 2018 году был кинофестиваль международный DDOR, который привлек артхаусные фильмы.
So, and regarding the festival, there is a festival, it's called Tidor, but after pandemic I don't think it's recovered as of now, but starting from 2004 there was this platform that was bringing art house films to Tajikistan. Otherwise our problems and issues in Tajikistan are very similar to what Mr. Escalante described.
Sure. One quick question before we wind up, Shamilaji.
My question is to Ariel. It's about Domingo and his struggles, and he's fighting against a mighty system. So you would find Domingos in every part of the world. There'll be struggles to keep your property and your past because he's a loner. Mm-hmm. So what motivated you to make this film?
What was the last part? I'm sorry.
What was the inspiration? Is it based on a real life incident, or how you zeroed in on this particular subject?
Yeah, thank you for your question. That has been wonderful to being showing the film around the world, which is like to realize that land is such a great problem everywhere. Everywhere. It's funny, but the last place, I mean, not funny, it's curious that the last place I visited before India was Colombia, and audiences in Colombia were really connected with Domingo's conflict. And but before that I was in Toronto International Film Festival, and you wouldn't imagine that land is such an issue in such a developed country as Canada, but it is. Land is continuously like one of humanity's biggest hardships. And I think we haven't discussed it enough, and I think we are not talking about it enough, and I don't think we're doing enough. To ensure everybody the right to land, right? Actually, when I started this film, my previous film, The Sound of Things, was centered around mourning, and that's like a theme that I'm really drawn to, and I'm still talking about mourning, and I think I will be, still discussing mourning in the future. So I was more like inclining towards the spiritual narrative, but then there was this particular case in Costa Rica in around April, May of 2019, which was the murder of Sergio Rojas, who was an indigenous community leader involved in a land conflict, and he was murdered by the bourgeoisie, and Costa Rica, like, the government rushed to close the case, and we were left wondering, like, aren't we a peaceful country? Wasn't it supposed that these things didn't happen in Costa Rica? So I started like reflecting a lot on it, and I felt very inspired by that case, because the next year, like 1 year exactly by calendar, Jerry Rivera, who was the person that continued Sergio Rojas's work after he was murdered again by the same circumstances involving the same land conflict. So I decided to. It's not like based on neither Sergio or Jerry, but I was really inspired to tell the story because of that. Because like. By like the goal of making a dialogue with Costa Rican society, and also with the rest of the world about how we see Costa Rica and how is violence embedded in every society we know. Thank you.
Gentlemen, we have another table talk lined up after this, so we might have to close this one here. Thank you very much for coming here.
And we have a big party outside,
yeah,
right?
You can hear it. Thank you for coming to IFFI 53. You've both come here with wonderful films. We wish you all the best. Take your films too, and we look forward to having you at subsequent editions of IFFI. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us here, and see you around.
Thank you.